So right on the heels of my last video, where I pointed out, last two videos, where I pointed out in Numbers 24 and verse 17, and in Yoel 3, or Yoel 3, I pointed out that the scripture says that the people of Pelesheth will be uprooted and sent to parts of sub-Saharan Africa, deported. Okay? And that would trigger this great war that's coming. So, it is unfortunate, first of all, that mainstream news media is not reporting the news. So I have to go to independent sources. One in particular, this one right here, warnews247.gr, out of Greece. They have a pro-Russian slant, I know, but they provide more accurate assessment of what is going on in the world concerning war than mainstream media. Mainstream media is putting people to sleep. Egypt and Jordan threaten Israel with war. Israeli officials talk about the annexation of Gaza and displacement of 2.3 million Pelesheth in Sinai. So they're talking about pushing them into Sinai. Well, that's not the Sabians. Another entity, the Moshiach, is going to send them deep into Africa, not just the Sinai. So they're just merely discussing it right now. They don't have the steel balls to do what it takes to get this done. Somebody else will do it. With a repetition of the Yom Kippur War, Egypt and Jordan threaten Israel if it proceeds with ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip and attempts to relocate the 2.3 million Palestinians to the Sinai Peninsula. Isn't it interesting that the Arabs do not want to take in their own, and they have all of the land in the Middle East? Earlier, both Israel's former Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon and Israel's current Foreign Minister Eli Cohen talked about annexing parts of Gaza and relocating Palestinians to Sinai. At the end of this war, not only will Hamas no longer be in Gaza, but the territory of Gaza will also be reduced. Not eliminated, but reduced. Remember what I told you. The Moshiach is going to eliminate them from that land, said the Israeli foreign minister. Jordan's foreign minister responded by saying any attempt by Israel to forcefully displace the Palestinians will mean war for Jordan. So what we have here is a standoff. Something has to be done. The Israeli government that bowed down the knee to Rome, aka Western civilization, know it has to be done, but they don't have the guts to get the job done, because they know then that they will be abandoned by their fair weather friends in the West, namely the United States of America. So here we are. Here we are. But something has to be done, and they know. The Israeli government, the Israeli military knows that they have to do something. But they also know that if they do anything, here comes the Great War. This is striking, given that Jordan has been one of the closest Arab states to Israel since they normalized relations in 1994. You believe that? Come on, folks. The Yom Kippur War, or the Fourth Arab-Israeli War, which took place in October 1973, was the last of the series of Arab-Israeli wars. So it has been exactly 50 years. Why 50? Why 50 years, folks? Is there some sort of Shemitah going on here? I don't know. The war was fought from October 6th to the 26th, 1973 by a coalition of Arab states under the leadership of Egypt and Syria against Israel. So you can see right here, if you want to go to Twitter and listen. I can't speak Hebrew, so I wouldn't be able to make that determination myself, but right here it says, Israel's foreign minister hinting at annexation of parts of Gaza. Remember what I told you. Remember what I pointed out yesterday, I think it was yesterday, or the last two videos. How the star out of Jacob is going to completely uproot the people of Pelesheth. Now the Egyptian prime minister or president saying they are dragging Egypt into a war with Israel. No, they're not. That's a lie. If Egypt wants to go to war against Israel, and according to Yoel 3, they will, and will be destroyed in the process, then they will go to war with Israel and get destroyed in the process. The idea of displacing the Palestinians in Sinai means dragging Egypt into a war against Israel, said the Egyptian president. Well, he wants war, so I guess he wants war. All right? So Sisi says, send the Palestinians temporarily into the Negev desert. No. Send them to sub-Saharan Africa. So specifically in the press conference he gave with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, he emphasized that Egyptians by the millions will reject the forced movement of Palestinians to Sinai, adding that such a move would turn the peninsula into a base for attacks against Israel, which is why they must be deported to, as Yoel 3 says, the place they are to be deported to. Far, far, far away. Because they helped in the deportation of Israel to the land of the Greeks, to the west. All right? So apparently, the threat to push him into the Sinai is real. But do you think that Egypt will accept this? No, they will not. They've already said they won't. Do you think that the Jordanians will accept this? No, they won't. Syria? Nope. Russia? No. Iran? No. Just 24 hours earlier, Israel's former deputy foreign minister, Danny Ayalon, told Al Jazeera that people in Gaza should evacuate their homes and move to the Sinai Desert in Egypt, where temporary tents could be set up for them. Okay, so they're really talking seriously about this. All right? So currently, this is the evacuation zone that they're telling the people of Gaza to get out of and pushing them down into here. Okay? But of course, down in here is a Sinai, would be down toward the Sinai. All right. Russia and USA see a regional war. Israel's ground war operations, according to the Russians, will fail, leads to Iran involvement and use of nukes. Now, of course, as I pointed out, this is translated to English. So let me see if I can make this sound more palatable for the English language. They're saying that both Russia and USA are seeing a regional war coming. And you, no matter where you live, should already have yourself prepared for this. You should have seen this coming years and years and years ago. So somebody is saying Israel's ground operations will fail. Which then will cause the Iranians to think that they have a chance to invade Israel and will force Israel to use nukes. Well, part of that is right, I believe, part of it. Because I have over and over and over again, and in the last two videos is no different, the Gog and Magog war. There is going, when they come and invade Israel, there is going to be an earthquake in the land, and they are going to fall. The enemies are going to fall and be destroyed by that great earthquake as they're coming in. And I think that Israel at that point will have no choice but to launch their nukes. And at that point, while all this is happening, the Moshiach shows up with his army. That's my guess. An Israeli ground operation in Gaza may fail miserably and develop into a generalized war in the Middle East involving Iran and the use of nukes. This is a conclusion reached by two top American former officials who show on one hand that they do not believe that Israel can succeed, at least on its own. And no, Israel cannot succeed on its own. They do need the Moshiach. And on the other hand, they fear the worst. They fear Israel will have to launch nukes, and rightly so. In fact, the assessment of the region is headed for a regional war was expressed yesterday by the correspondent of NBC News based upon information from Israel and Arab states. It is noted that the surprise intervention of Vladimir Putin pointed in the same direction. That is why the Russian president publicly revealed that he ordered a 24-hour MiG-31 aircraft with KH-47M2 Kinzhal targeting American aircraft carriers in the eastern Mediterranean. Those missiles are the fastest missiles ever created, ever built. Hypersonic missiles. So you have this NBC News analyst, Richard Engel, saying that. So General Petraeus says, former head of the CIA, etc., who served as his U.S. top general in Iraq and Afghanistan, expressed concern about an Israeli ground military attack on the Gaza Strip. Petraeus, speaking on Politico's Power Play podcast, estimated that a ground attack would take years and involve horrific fighting. In fact, he warned that the Israeli armed forces' continued bombing campaign could become Mogadishu on steroids very quickly. Yeah, well, usually it takes a decade, he says. The possibility of a nuclear confrontation is open, warns a former American official. Iran could develop a functioning nuclear bomb in 6 weeks. A former U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency official has warned in his statements to the U.S. newspaper Express. Matt Shoemaker argues that nuclear exchange between Israel and Iran is not out of the question if Hezbollah gets involved in the Israeli-Hamas war. And that, friends, is the reason why 2 U.S. aircraft carriers are now sitting off the coast of Israel. They're going to attempt to try to stop Hezbollah because, see, Hezbollah has got hundreds of thousands of rockets from Iran. If they go all in, if Hezbollah goes all in, that Israel will have to nuke Lebanon and possibly Iran. Then he says the Israeli conflict could spark a nuclear war if Iran builds a nuclear bomb. The alarming warning from his lips as the Tel Aviv government prepares for a ground attack on Gaza. The threat of nuclear war remains unlikely. I say it is not only likely, it is inevitable. I've shown you scriptures that prove that this nuclear war is going to take place. Without a shadow of a doubt. But a plausible threat in this region, not only because of Iran's nuclear weapons program, but because Israel is a nuclear power. He even recalls that Iran's foreign minister has warned Israel that it would suffer a huge earthquake if it invades Gaza. Well, let me remind the foreign minister of Iran and Russia and Turkey that there will be a great, great earthquake if they invade northern Israel. An earthquake the size that they could not even imagine. While Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu is receiving heads of state and government in Tel Aviv to express their solidarity and willingness to help him in the war zone with defense equipment, there is a widespread fear that in the event of Hezbollah's involvement, that the group backed by Iran, there is a risk of flare-up on the Lebanese-Israeli border. As I have shown you in Scripture, there will be a war between Israel and Gaza. There will be a war between Israel and Lebanon. There will be a war between Israel and Syria, and and Jordan. And yes, there will be a war between Israel and Egypt. There's no getting around it. Now Medvedev, a former president of Russia and still a deputy president of the Security Council of Russia, advanced a particular worrying assessment who argued that the conflict between Israel and Hamas has every chance of developing into a regional or even a global war. In his article in the Russian newspaper Izvestia, Medvedev speaks of a war without rules. There will be a war in the Middle East. A brutal war without rules. A war based on terror and the doctrine of disproportionate use of force against the civilian population, says Medvedev, who admits that Moscow is particularly concerned about developments in the Middle East. This new conflict has every possibility of developing into a full regional war. Medvedev asserts that even pointing out that certain bad conditions the world could be faced with a world war. As Medvedev argues, if the conflict in the Middle East is not resolved in a proper and fair way, this war could escalate into a 100-year war or even a short nuclear war. Which one do you think is going to happen? I could say I told you so, but that would be improper because the prophets told you so. I'm just pointing out the words of the prophets. And so he is saying the only way to definitively solve the issue is the creation of an independent Palestinian state by implementing all the fundamental political decisions taken since 1947. What he's saying is the 67 borders. But Yehoshua HaMoshiach will say no to Russia. You will not do that. Because all these people are doing is setting up Israel, the Jews in Israel, for extermination. And then they will go hunt down all the rest of Israel around the world. And so his solution, the 67 borders, is not going to happen. The alternative to that is significantly worse, a war that will last another 100 years, or even worse, a short conflict with the use of nuclear weapons by regional powers with the prospect of intervention by major nuclear powers. Medvedev underlines, have you bothered to read Ezekiel 38 and 39? Have you bothered to read Zechariah 14? Verses 12 and 13. Have you bothered to read Haggai 2, verses 18 to 22? Have you bothered to read Revelation 9, verses 17 through 18? Have you bothered to read that? Listen, I have done entire videos over and over and over again on these matters, proving to you that it will happen. It will be a nuclear war. Now, with this Islamic Jihad bombing the outskirts of the hospital in Gaza, no, they did not bomb the hospital. Nobody bombed the hospital. The hospital is still intact, I think. But they bombed the outskirts of the hospital. And then they blamed Israel. So Iran responds with tank deployment on Iraq border. green lights to Hezbollah to engage. Hamas reinforced with 7,000 Shiites. You don't think there's going to be a nuclear war? At this point, you would be a fool if you didn't think so. Mass movements of units of the 92nd Armored Division of the Iranian Army has been observed for a few hours. T-72 tanks were spotted moving into the Khuzestan province, which is located in the southwest of the country and borders Iraq and the Persian Gulf. At the same time, movements of Fateh 110 ballistic missiles were detected. Iran is on heightened alert targeting U.S. and other bases in the Middle East region. Those missiles have a range of 300 kilometers, and its third generation has improved accuracy. All right. A while ago, the aircraft used by Iran's foreign minister landed in Beirut International Airport in Lebanon after taking off earlier from Baghdad, Iraq. There's a strong concern that Shiite militias are organizing in a center established in Lebanon. See? If Israel does not stop its attacks on civilians in Gaza, the region will face new situations. Israel cannot impose a complete siege in Gaza, bomb civilians, and commit war crimes without response. This is this is the narrative that they have chosen. This is the fight that they have chosen, so the fight they are going to get. In the meantime, Israel moves to evacuate villages abutting Lebanon border. So this is already 3 days ago. Israel has activated a plan to evacuate residents of 28 villages within now. I recently heard a report that it's going to be 5 miles of evacuations, not just 1 mile. Okay? Last night, or yesterday, Israeli War Cabinet approved broad assault in Gaza. Do you believe there's going to be a war now? And do you think that Iran is going to allow oil to continue to pass through the Strait of Hormuz? With full backing from President Biden for Israeli actions. Ministers okay evacuation of Israeli communities within 5 kilometers. That would be, alright. So, okay, I got it wrong. I thought it was 5 miles. It's 5, now they have increased it from 2 kilometers now to 5 kilometers. Of the Lebanon border. This should tell you something. Now, concerning the bombing of the hospital, NBC News says an analyst from Bellingcat, an independent investigative non-governmental organization, also found that the hospital itself was not hit, but rather the adjacent parking lot. The only location damage is outside the hospital in the parking lot, where we can see signs of burning, no cratering, no structural damage to nearby buildings. And yet, the people now with egg on their face still want to believe the lie. Bellingcat Director of Research and Training, Giancarlo Fiorelli, said Wednesday, adding that the distance between the crater area where people were was about what crater area? There was no crater. It was about 20 to 30 feet. The parking lot analysis also appears to tally with verified photos posted on social media, including by local journalist Mohammed Masri and the Reuters news agency, which released a picture showing a small crater with spray of debris arcing in a southwesterly direction. In the hours after the explosion, gruesome videos emerged from the hospital on social media showing dozens of mangled bodies and detached limbs lying in the grass by the hospital parking lot. Children's backpacks could be seen beside soaked blood blankets and bedding, suggesting the victims were sleeping outside at the time of the blast. They should have evacuated to the southern half of Gaza like Israel told them to. But Islamic Jihad, they don't care who they hit. Okay? And now they're going to accuse Israel of genocide. All right. Justin Bronk, a research fellow at the Royal United Services Institute, a military-focused think tank in London, agreed, based upon what I've seen so far, I really doubt that this was an airstrike, he said, adding that the blast damage seen so far doesn't fit with the missiles Israel has been using to strike Gaza over the past week and a half. Retired Admiral James Stavridis, a former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO and NBC News contributor, held a similar opinion. To my eye, the damage on the ground does not look at all like what you would see from an airstrike or a precision-guided weapon, he said. It looks like a projectile with a lot of fuel in it hit a parking lot and created a fireball. As more evidence emerges, it appears it may well have been an errant Palestinian rocket, he said. We should not be blinkered that this may indeed be an error on the part of the Palestinian forces. What kind of language is that, blinkered? All right. And of course, Joe Biden was shown the evidence by the Israeli government that it was indeed not Israelis, but very likely Islamic Jihad. So tonight, Joe Biden will deliver a primetime foreign policy speech to the country on Thursday night, White House officials said Wednesday. The Oval Office address is scheduled for 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It will address the administration's response to Hamas terrorist attack against Israel and Russia's war in Ukraine. It comes after Biden flew to Tel Aviv on Wednesday, pledging his support for Israel in the wake of the sprawling attack carried out by Hamas terrorists this month. Now, Joe Biden, yes, I know he's a geriatric, but he said something incredibly amazing, which shocked me. In the remarks there at the meeting, after the meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel said, Israel was born to be a safe place for the Jewish people in the world. I completely agree. While it may not feel that way today, Israel must again be a safe place for the Jewish people, he said, promising that U.S. would do everything in our power to make sure it is. All right, now then he goes on to do double talk, saying that Hamas and the Palestinian people are not the same. They are the same. That's double talk. They are one and the same. They are the same people who were dancing in the streets when the Twin Towers fell down. They are the same people that every time something bad happens in Israel, they dance in the streets. That is the general population. of the Gaza and Arab residents of Judea and Samaria. They all did that. They're one and the same. Which means that just like every president before Joe Biden, he is halting between two opinions. He cannot decide which side he's on, which proves that only for strategic military reasons is Israel considered an ally of the United States. But when that changes, the foreign policy of the United States concerning Israel will also change. When that happens, I do not know. But I do know that according to Isaiah 60, let's see here. Get Strong's Concordance. According to Isaiah 60, they will fly. Who will fly? Who will fly? In the clouds, like doves back to their window. These are like domesticated doves who go out, fly, and then return back to their windows, their coop. The coastlands shall wait, and the ships, flying in ships, folks, of Tarshish, first to bring your sons from afar, with their gold and silver with them, unto Shem Yehovah Elohim, the Kadosh of Israel. All of them, when the dust settles. What dust? Well, this dust right here. Arise and shine, for your light is come, and the glory of not the Lord, but Jehovah, has risen. For darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. That is, heavy, dark clouds. But Jehovah will arise, he will come forth, and his glory will be seen. The Gentiles will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. This is the future glory of Mount of Zion, folks. This is when Zion wins the war. Lift up your eyes round about, and see they all are gathering together. They come to you, your sons shall come from afar, and your daughters shall be confirmed, nursed, supported. At your side. You will see a stream The people will be streaming. Your inner man will be in awe. And your tents will be enlarged. This is when the greater Israel project begins. Because the Romans, the murmuring crowd of the sea, take a look at your Mediterranean Sea map, will not be converted to you, will be overthrown. Western civilization, that would be Greece and Rome, and all of Europe will be overthrown when the forces of the Gentiles invade. Yes, I use Strong's Concordance because King James Version makes sure that you cannot see, that you cannot understand. That is the day of wrath. That is the day of darkness, when the Gentiles that invade Israel are overthrown. And after that, the sons of strangers shall build up your walls, and their kings shall serve you. For in my wrath I smote, but in my favor I have mercy on you. Therefore your gates shall continually be open. They will not shut neither day nor night, so that men will bring you the wealth of the Gentiles, and also so that their kings may be brought. Probably brought for will be led, probably be brought in for trial, my guess. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve you shall perish. Yes, those nations of the Gentiles shall be utterly wasted. The people, the children, the sons of those who afflicted you all of these years, the Christians, the Crusaders, the Muslims, all of them will come bowing down. All those that despised you shall bow down themselves at the soles of your feet, and they will call you the city of Jehovah, Zion, the Holy of Israel. That's what's coming, folks. That's what's coming. Now, for the past, I don't know, 9 or 10 years, however long it was, and for the 700 videos that I have posted, none of you, that nobody on earth today, I don't care who you are, nobody living on earth today can point the finger at me and say, why didn't you tell me? I've been extremely loud, but very few people are listening to any of these videos. So it's not my fault. What's coming is not my fault. All I have done is I've pointed out to you the truth, swept away the lies of King James Version, and exposed you the real truth about what the prophets, the disciples of Yehoshua, and Yehoshua himself said. And they all agree. So, there's no excuses, folks. No excuses at all for not being ready, for not being prepared what is about to happen next.